tonight. A fifth consecutive majority government for the Saskatchewan Party. And not the orange wave they were hoping for, but the NDP opposition nearly doubles in size. Plus, the Riders get ready for the West Division semi-final.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Tuesday, October 29th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thank you for watching. Scott Moe has led his Saskatchewan Party to a fifth straight majority. The party once again ran the table in southern and central Saskatchewan, but voters in Regina and Saskatoon sent him a message. Moe says he's heard it. Adam Hunter has more.
Well after midnight, Premier Scott Moe walked into his hometown rink to cheers. Flanked by his wife Krista, the re-elected leader of the province was able to give a victory speech to supporters. 4 years ago, COVID rules denied him that opportunity.
Thank you once again, Saskatchewan, for placing your trust in our party, in the Saskatchewan Party. And thank you for electing a majority Saskatchewan Party government.
Before mail-in ballots are counted, Moe's Saskatchewan Party holds a 35-26 lead, clinging to 2 seats in Saskatoon, but currently shut out in Regina. Moe says, message received.
All of us in government, and it starts with myself, we're going to take a little bit of time, we're going to reflect on the message that was sent here this evening, to reflect on just what exactly that means. And you have my word that we are going to do that. And we will strive to earn back your support.
Moe's caucus is smaller, and he's lost some familiar faces. Cabinet Ministers Bronwyn Eyre and Laura Ross lost their re-election bids, while Paul Merriman and Christine Tell will only keep their seats if they are rescued by a large mail-in ballot return. Sask Party campaign co-chair Donna Harpower says a fifth majority should not be dismissed.
I think that, quite frankly, we're in an envious spot across the nation because no other province has been able to hold government for 5 terms. So is it repercussions or is it a success?
Moe and the Saskatchewan Party will be watching those mail-in returns closely. Incumbent David Buckingham has a 31-vote lead in Saskatoon Westview, while incumbent Alana Ross has a 125-vote lead in Prince Albert Northcote. Ken Cheveldayoff leads by more than 250 votes in Saskatoon Willow Grove. Wednesday's first mail-in count could provide a conclusion to some of those contested races. Adam Hunter, CBC News, Regina.
Now, it may not have been the results that the Saskatchewan NDP were hoping for, but as it stands, the NDP will return to the legislature with a much stronger opposition. Alexander Kwan brings us that story.
In front of a cheering crowd of supporters and candidates in Regina, surrounded by her family, NDP leader Carla Beck displayed a mix of emotions late Monday night.
I know you're feeling disappointed. I'm not going to lie. Well, I'm a bit disappointed.
Despite a surge in the polls in the final weeks of the campaign, the Saskatchewan NDP will not form government, but it will function as a larger opposition to the Sask Party in the legislature.
We might not have crossed the finish line first tonight, but my friends, we have changed the landscape in this province.
As it stands now, not counting mail-in ballots, the NDP have almost doubled their seat share. That means a host of rookie MLAs, including Joan Pratchler. The former principal and now nurse says her background is what helped her win in Regina Rochdale, knocking off long-term Sask Party MLA and Cabinet Minister Laura Ross.
I understand what the issues are, and now I can stand up for them. And that's what you need in a spicy grandma there.
Veteran NDP operative Sally Hauser also took out a well-known Sask Party politician. She defeated former Social Services Minister Jean Mikowski, who also won a Grey Cup with the Riders. The incoming MLA for Regina University says a message has been sent to the Sask Party.
No political party owns the vote of the people of Saskatchewan, right? You have to connect, you have to serve, you have to listen.
One political scientist says the rural-urban split results could indicate a polarized province.
The more difficult it is for these parties to walk the line between saying, yes, we hear your concerns in rural areas, but we also have to speak to the concerns of Saskatoon and Regina, and not have that look like it's alienating rural voters.
The NDP says it will use its reinforced opposition to stay focused on what it campaigned on, fixing healthcare and education. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
So, how unexpected were these results? And how well did Moe and Beck react to their party's overall performances? Polls analyst Eric Grenier has some thoughts.
Curious what he was going to come out and say, because a win is a win, right? 5 in a row, big deal. This is his second victory. Probably going to get over 50% of the vote after everything's counted. That, by any other measure, is a big win. But in the context of Saskatchewan, in the context of having 3 consecutive elections with over 60% of the vote, Scott Moe didn't come out and do a rah-rah, we won, we're the best, that kind of thing that you often hear from party leaders after they win a victory, even if it's close. This was a little bit of humility, a little bit of saying that he had heard the message from voters in Saskatchewan, which I think was the accurate read of this. I think if he had come out of there, come onto that stage and said that, we beat the NDP, thank you, Saskatchewan, for trusting us and believing in everything that we do. I think that would have been the wrong read, because there was some huge shifts in the cities. There was huge shifts in the rural areas too. The Sask Party ended up still winning everything, but they lost a lot of support. We were looking last night at Moe's own riding, and he lost a lot of the vote in his riding. And it didn't go necessarily to right-wing parties. In most cases, it went to the NDP. The NDP finished second everywhere in rural Saskatchewan. So I think for Scott Moe to come out, say that he had heard the message that the party will have to do more to earn Saskatchewan voters' trust in the future, I think that was the right message and the right tone from Scott Moe on election night.
What did you make of Carla Beck, leader of the Saskatchewan NDP's reaction? She seemed more disappointed than her room full of supporters.
Yeah, you do get the impression that she thought that actually they could pull it off. So I think that if you go in there thinking, wishing, hoping that it might turn out and you might become the premier by the end of the night, I don't blame her for being a little disappointed. But it was a big result for the NDP. They haven't had this many seats. They haven't had this amount of the vote since they formed government. And if we were just talking a couple months ago, you would give them no shot to have won this election. They will end up coming pretty close. We'll see what's going to happen with the mail vote. We know what happened last time. They were able to flip some seats. We've seen what happened in British Columbia, where the NDP flipped some seats after the mail vote was counted. But if the NDP ends up at 27, maybe 28 seats after coming with 14, that's a huge achievement for a party that, how long ago was it they were saying that the brand was bringing them down? They needed to change the name. It seems like the party's doing okay, and that Sask Party dominance that we were kind of expecting for the rest of our lives.
Alberta is once again going head-to-head with Ottawa in the courts. The province is launching a legal challenge related to the carbon tax. Premier Danielle Smith says Alberta has applied for a judicial review of Ottawa's exemption of carbon levy on home heating oil.
Here in Alberta, we don't tend to think that more taxes are the solution for anything, let alone a tax on all the things our citizens need to live and thrive in this cold climate. Given the cost of living challenges many households are facing, piling more financial burden onto Canadians is simply cruel and punitive.
It's a similar but different path than Saskatchewan took. Earlier this year, the provincial government stopped paying the federal carbon charge on natural gas. It comes after the feds exempted home heating oil users from paying it. Premier Moe called the decision unfair, saying all forms of home heating should be exempt. 27 students and their adult bus driver are hurt after a school bus crash on Monday afternoon. It happened near Tisdale, about 2 hours east of Saskatoon. Police say the students were on their way home from Tisdale School when their bus crashed about 10 minutes away from home on the Kinistanen-Soto Nation. The driver and several students were seriously hurt. 6 of them are still in hospital. The Northeast School Division confirmed the incident and released a statement saying, "We are sending our healing thoughts and wishes for a quick recovery to those involved." Canada's special interlocutor on unmarked graves issued her final report today. It calls on Ottawa to establish an Indigenous-led commission to investigate missing and disappeared Indigenous children. Kimberly Murray says the commission should have a 20-year mandate. More than 150,000 Indigenous children were forced to attend residential schools, and at least 6,000 of them died in those institutions. Well, if you are in the mood for fun and spooky decorations, we are 2 days from Halloween. You are in luck. There are plenty to take in along the streets of Regina. Halloween coming up close, but you'd never know it with the sunny and warm weather that we have been having. But the big question, will kids be able to wear their costumes without a snowsuit underneath? Ethan will be back after the break with his answer. Stay with us. Welcome back. Back to the big story of the day. Despite a historic Saskatchewan Party victory, things aren't as rosy for Scott Moe and his party this time around. The NDP has made considerable gains, and Moe is taking note. Our political panel was with me till the early hours of this morning, and back at it on the morning edition with Stephanie Langenegger.
It's a different message than 4 years ago, because 4 years ago he said, I heard the message, but we all think he was referring to the Buffalo Party.
And he shouted them out, right?
And he shouted them out, and they finished second in 4 races in rural Saskatchewan, which were safe, super safe seats from the Saskatchewan Party. They were not a factor last night. As Murray mentioned, the Sask United Party was not a factor last night. The NDP was the second place finisher everywhere, including rural Saskatchewan. Their vote split is still not what the NDP wants. But I think Scott Moe, as Murray said, he couldn't be as rah-rah as he wanted to be. He did that 4 years ago in front of an empty room in COVID. Last night, because it was so late, because we don't have electronic vote tabulators, something the Saskatchewan Party voted against. That's why we're waiting so long for those votes to come in. He had to wait until after midnight to talk to a room in his hometown. And he even said in his speech, well, a lot of people had to go home because they have work and school in the morning. So his moment was sort of robbed at fifth majority because of the timing it took to count the ballots, which wasn't the fault of Elections Saskatchewan necessarily. We don't have all of that info, but we could have had quicker results. I think he also, said, hey, Carla Beck, great job. And we don't always get that.
We don't often get that.
And so that stood out to me. And I think he had to shout her out because there was a change movement, as I mentioned, and Regina and Saskatoon. It's going to be really hard for Scott Moe to go into some of those rooms in the cities, as I think it's been over the last few months, as we've heard in some big events where he hasn't got a big ovation that the Sask Party's used to getting, and that played out in the votes.
What did you hear from the leader of the opposition, the much, much bigger opposition, Carla Beck, last night?
She was surprisingly down, which I don't quite get, because they had 26 seats, and they might get more. And this should have been a very good night for her. I think they got caught up in their own expectations. The polls were wrong. And I'm tired of saying, oh, well, within 3.5%. They were in close, in terms of popular vote and everything else. And that's the only thing. And certainly not close in terms of taking that popular vote and making their silly seat projections. So that's one of the things that I think that Carla Beck kind of got sucked into the polling, the Twitter wars. Like right now, the best thing that could happen is that if Scott Moe didn't pay any attention to Western Standard, and if Carla Beck didn't pay any attention to Twitter, because like my goodness, we'd all be better off in hitting that little nice middle ground if we actually saw something like that. I thought that in some ways she's probably better positioned because of whom she is and everything else. I think perhaps last night it reflected how tired she was because she ran a very hard campaign, as did Scott Moe, obviously, because he was the one-man show. And I think that was sort of a bit of a reflection. She might, in that sense, be better positioned to bridge the divide that's in Saskatchewan. But I think that Scott Moe is probably, if he does the right thing and stops listening to the wrong people, as Adam said, you had your moment taken away because you listen to a minister who has conspiracy theories about vote tabulation. You messed up on Bill 37 because you put your trust in a non-lawyer justice minister who I think got a pretty loud message from those academic lawyers that she so talked about in such a condescending way. And I think that some of that was translatable. It was less translatable in rural Saskatchewan, where obviously issues like the carbon tax and everything else that the Sask Party government was doing that they liked were more predominant, and they were able to overlook the problems like healthcare and everything and re-vote for this party. Why they kept going on about hospital closures 30 years ago is now evident, because rural Saskatchewan is older and people remember. But there's a changing urban Saskatchewan, and Scott Moe has to adjust to that change. And Carla Beck still has to somehow bridge the fact that rural Saskatchewan kind of has the same issues with the NDP they always had. And maybe there's newer, younger people replacing older people who carry on those same issues. And I don't know how either party necessarily does that. So maybe that's why they both sounded so damn down last night. I have no solutions to them as how they can fix that either.
The weather update is brought to you by Capital GMC Buick Cadillac. Our greatest auto sale is on now.
Quick note, if you want to watch more of that political panel, you can do that on our YouTube channel. Our weather specialist, Ethan William, joins us now. Cooler day out there today.
Yeah, sure was. A gorgeous day, election day, for sure. I think that's one thing that we can all agree on when it comes to election day. But yeah, temperatures definitely coming down over these last 24 hours. This is daytime highs from yesterday on the left compared to today on the right, and a good 5 to 10 degrees cooler. Notice Maple Creek there only getting up to 2 degrees today, 11 degrees cooler than your daytime high yesterday. Temperatures up in the north hanging around the freezing mark. That is about seasonal for this time of year. Getting into south and central, I mentioned the southwest cloud cover really making it hard for you to jump out of those lower single digits today. But of a lot of us, these are seasonal temperatures for this time of year, and making for pretty nice weather as we get into the end of October here. I think that's going to be staying around mostly because you notice the jet stream here. Yes, it is to our south, the cooler air a bit to our north here, but we're not seeing any real kind of dips or troughs or anything like that. It's almost in a straight line here, so this kind of weather is going to stick around. That is in terms of temperatures, at least. In the skies, well, I think it's more of the same as well, because the clouds will be clearing out overnight tonight in south and central Saskatchewan. This area of high pressure helping that happen. That's going to make things pretty cool overnight. I think -10 is where a lot of us in south and central will drop down to tonight. Mostly sunny skies, though, for many of us tomorrow. And then getting into Thursday, a little bit more cloudiness, especially into the evening hours. That's important, of course, because the trick-or-treaters will be wanting to know if we have to put on the snowsuits. Definitely not for Halloween this year, I think. We'll see a little bit of snow skirting the far north, but it won't be very measurable, I don't think. Cloud cover, though, hangs around in the north for Friday, while south and central remain partly to mostly sunny. Winds aren't going to be too much of a factor either, because we have that high pressure in place and not a whole lot of systems kind of moving around weather-wise these next few days. So that makes for not too bad of a forecast. We'll be pretty much bang on seasonal, or even a bit above that over these next few days. Again, there's that increase in cloudiness in Regina on Thursday, but by Friday we've cleared out. Notice the temperatures won't drop too much for Halloween Eve, so it'll be quite nice for south and central. Even heading into the first bit of November, we're seeing those temperatures stay above the freezing mark during the daytime. Nearly identical forecast here for Saskatoon. Again, I think your Halloween going to be actually the warmest day that you're going to be seeing. There is a better shot at maybe a little bit of rain as we get into Sunday, and then again on Tuesday with maybe some snow flurries in there, but pretty much bang on seasonal. And yes, so no snowsuits required this year for trick-or-treating, Sam.
Collective woohoo. Thanks,
yes,
Ethan.
That's right.
Can only go up from here, up, 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 where the clouds
Shania Twain hoping to up the mood at Calgary Stampede next year. She is headlining the concert series next summer, her first time back at that festival in more than a decade. Twain will take the stage at Scotiabank Saddledome on July 5th. We'll be back after the break. It was back to business today for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Their focus now shifting to the playoffs as they host the West semifinal on Saturday. The Green and White ended the season by first watching the Winnipeg Blue Bombers clinch first in Montreal. With destiny taken out of their hands, it allowed the Riders to sit some veterans. They ended up losing to the Calgary Stampeders at home 27-12. But this Saturday, they hope they won't skip a beat with everyone back in the lineup.
I don't think that we feel like we lost momentum or all of a sudden we don't believe in ourselves or anything of that nature. It was more or less just, now let's get to the playoffs and we're here. So time to tee it up and let's rock.
We went the route that we did. Luckily the guys that did end up playing the game, we made it out healthy. So you want to have as many people available to you as you head into the playoffs and make the decision tough, on us as coaches to put together the final roster. So from that standpoint, very happy.
The Riders host BC in the West semifinal in Regina at 4:30 Saturday. The winner will head to Winnipeg a week later for the West final. The Grey Cup is set for November 17th in Vancouver. And Ethan is back with one last look at your weather.
Might need a few extra layers with this forecast because we're already down to -6 in Regina by midnight. Feeling like -10, but as you head out the door tomorrow morning, keep in mind, it's going to be -10. It's probably going to feel closer to -15. It's a nice sunny morning, though. The winds are fairly light, but that's how it's going to feel. Temperature is going to warm up very quickly, though, already at 4 degrees by the noon hour. I think we'll be getting to around 6 or so in Regina. Saskatoon, fairly similar forecast here as we jump into the morning hours again. I think we'll be around that -15 mark as well. But again, the sunny skies sticking around for you. Those temperatures bumping up above the freezing mark by the noon hour. So a chilly start to the day. Probably one of the coldest mornings we've seen so far this fall, Sam.
Well, that's a fun landmark for us.
Yes, isn't that great?
Thanks, Ethan.
You're welcome.
And before we go tonight, Londoners are celebrating the 40th anniversary of Tetris. Organizers say it was one of the biggest multiplayer Tetris games to ever take place, with up to 7 people playing at once. At 40, it still finds the way to fit just right into the modern gaming world. And now I want to go home and play Tetris. That is it for us tonight. For more on Saskatchewan Votes 2024 results, you can head to cbc.ca/sask or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night.